Hi, One Schoolhouse biology students. I would like to reflect on week 2 quiz and go over the thinking process of each question to show you guys that the questions really are thinking questions, application questions, instead of just recalling the information. So I pulled up the quiz from week 2, and here are the questions. So, question number 1, a typical bag of fertilizers contains high level of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, and a trace amount of magnesium and calcium. Which of the following best matches the fertilizer components with the molecule in which it will be incorporated by organisms in the area? That relates to the note-taking guideline, question number 8. If you check back. So what we know, the nitrogen is important component for amino acids, and many amino acids are making up the protein. So nitrogen also important in nucleotides that make up nucleic acid. So here is nitrogen will be incorporated in nucleic acid. That is true. Phosphorus will be incorporated in amino acids. Amino acids do not contain phosphorus. Only nucleotides are containing phosphorus and nucleic acid. So this is wrong. Potassium incorporated into lipids. Lipids contain only carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. Phospholipids, some phosphorus, but not potassium. It's not necessary. Magnesium will be incorporated in carbohydrates. That is not true. Carbohydrates contain only carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. That's why A is the only correct answer in here. Question number 2. So a common test, this is in clinical settings for liver function testing. If the liver is not working correctly, tons of bile salts will be in the urine, and it will indicate liver malfunction. Now, if the urine does not contain bile salt, the sulfur powder sprinkled on the urine will stay on the top of the urine, because the urine contains a lot of water content, and the water makes hydrogen bonds with each other to increase the surface tension for the sulfur powder not to sink down. On the other hand, if there's a ton of salt, bile salt, the salt will break down into its ions, and the water molecules are going to surround the ions. The positive ion will be surrounded by water molecules facing, so the ion is positive, so the oxygen will move towards of the positive ion, and if it's a negative ion from the salt, the water molecules hydrogens are going to gather all around the ion. In that case, the water molecules, many of them are going to bind to the salt ions, and less water molecules will be able to make the hydrogen bonds with each other to have a surface tension. So lower surface tension will not be able to handle the sulfur powder on its top. So the sulfur powder, because of the low surface tension, will go down. Does it make sense, that explanation? So bile salt decreases the surface tension of the urine sample. That is true. Bile salt increases the water potential of the urine. We did not cover the water potential, so don't worry about that. Bile salt increases the density of the urine sample. It doesn't. it doesn't, that although this is true, can be true, but the density doesn't deal with the staying the sulfur powder on the top of the surface or not. Basalt decreases the strength of the covalent bond. Covalent bonds are intramolecular bonds. The intramolecular bonds do not do anything with the surface tension, just only the intermolecular ones, the hydrogen bond. So we will just go next, question number 3. So that is the sawdust versus potting soil. The sawdust contains only cellulose, that cellulose is a carbohydrate, and the carbohydrates contain carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen. This is referring to note-taking, question number 8, as far as I know. Yes, the last part. Now, they contain only carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, the cellulose. The potting soil, on the other hand, contains everything. So contains carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, as well as nitrogen and phosphorus. So here we see that the seedling in potting soil is totally healthy, tall plant, but the sawdust will provide a smaller and not that healthy plant. Now, the nitrogen, phosphorus, look for 2 molecules that contain nitrogen and phosphorus. So the observed differences between the groups would be the nitrogen and phosphorus. Check this one. This is does not contain nitrogen or phosphorus, nor this, so A is not true. This contains nitrogen, so this might be true. This contains nitrogen, and this also contains phosphorus that is in the potting soil, so C is way more better answer than B. And the last one contains phosphorus, but no nitrogen. So we should pick C for that question. Number 4. This is about analyzing a diagram, the exchange of matter between the organisms, the conservation of matter in an ecosystem. Here is the fish, and we see that the fish releases carbon dioxide, will get oxygen from the plant, and releases ammonia via digestion and urination in the water. These rod-shaped organisms are bacteria. They convert the ammonia to nitrite and nitrate, and the plant assimilates it. So you have to really understand. This is one of the skills students have to apply in AP Biology, be able to analyze the picture. So the question is, which of the following statement best describes how molecules released by the fish released carbon dioxide and ammonia, converted by the fish, become nutrients for the plants? Both of them are nutrients, okay? So that's true. But now let's see the A. The carbon dioxide molecule released by the fish are converted by the bacteria. I don't see any rod shape particles in here that represents bacteria, so this is not true. The bacteria converts the ammonia to nitrate, and another sets of bacteria, the nitrites to nitrates. So A is not true. The oxygen molecules released by the fish. Hello, there's no oxygen molecule that the fish releases, so this is not true either. The nitrite released by the fish are converted by bacteria to carbon dioxide. The nitrite will not turn into carbon dioxide. The nitrite will turn into nitrate. So C is not correct either. The ammonia molecule released by the fish are converted bacteria to nitrate. That's ammonia turns to nitrate eventually, which are used by the plants to make proteins and nucleic acids. Yes, because we know that the amino acids and nucleotides contain nitrogen, so the answer D is the correct answer for that. Number 5, human-produced sweat as a cooling mechanism to maintain a stable internal temperature. Which of the following best explained from the properties of the water that contribute to this physiological process? This would be for you guys note-taking section number 5. The sweat is sweat is a liquid in state of matter, watery content, and when we want to cool down, the sweat is going to evaporate, turn into gas stage. So let's see, and that requires tons of energy for the water molecule to turn from liquid to gas state of matter. Now, where does the energy come from for that? To break the hydrogen bonds between the liquid water, between the molecules in the liquid? Well, your body, my body, will provide the energy for that in a form, the kinetic energy for the particles. The high specific heat capacity of water allows the body absorb a large amount of excess heat energy. That's not the point of the sweat. The point of the sweat is evaporate from the body, from the surface of the body, and take away heat from the body. So A is not correct. The high heat of evaporization of water allows the body to remove excess heat through a phase change of water from liquid to gas. That's what we were talking about. It requires tons of energy, the water molecules, to break their hydrogen bonds in the liquid form and turn into gas molecules. So B is pretty true. I would not stop and click B until I would read C and D at this point. The high surface tension of water contributes to physical process by which water leaves the body. There's no high surface tension and cooling down the body, so this is not true. The high melting temperature of water allows the body to remove excess heat through phase change of water from solid to liquid. We do not have ice cubes in a solid phase of water on our skin, but a liquid that turns into gas. So D is not correct. I would go with answer B. Next one, 6. So here is again referring to your last question on the note-taking sheet. A researcher analyzed 4 different samples of macromolecules, 1, 2, 3, 4, and here are measured the percent of carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur in the samples. Now, based on that, what kind of molecule can A, B, or B, C, and D? So sample A contains nucleic acid. If it would be nucleic acid, it would contain phosphorus and nitrogen besides the carbon, oxygen, and nitrogen. And this is not true because there's no nitrogen and phosphorus for the that sample A. So A is not correct. Sample B contains protein. Proteins are made up of amino acids, and amino acids contain carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, good, nitrogen, and also some of them, very few, contain sulfur. So this could be a good choice. Sample C contains nucleic acid. Nucleic acid, what we said, contains not only carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, but phosphorus as well as nitrogen. And C does not contain nitrogen, so therefore this is not a nucleic acid. Sample D contains protein. Proteins are made up of amino acids, and amino acids contain carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and sometimes sulfur, but definitely not phosphorus. So the sample B is the correct answer. B is the correct answer, as sample B contains protein. Number 7. Now, this is again just macromolecules and bacteriophage, talking about the bacteriophage. Bacteriophage, it tells you it's a virus that infects bacteria. In an experiment, they put labeled phosphorus and sulfur in the bacteriophage, and the bacteriophage were incubated in bacteria, and to see what part of material is going to be added to the bacteria by the bacteriophage, whether the DNA that contains radioactive phosphorus or the amino acid that contains radioactive sulfur. As we said, there's some sulfur in some of the amino acids. What the researchers noticed that the bacteria, after got infected, contains radioactive phosphorus, but not radioactive sulfur. So it means the radioactive phosphorus that was part of the DNA was able to get into the bacteria. So that's why the DNA is the correct answer for nucleic acid that contains radioactive phosphorus. But the protein that contained radioactive sulfur did not enter into the bacteria. And the last question was something like that. So here is the picture, and based on the chemical structure of the cyanide, this is the cyanide, contains hydrogen, carbon, and nitrogen. One type of biological material that could serve as a chemical precursor for the production of cyanide in plant. And you have to justify your choice. This is a very hard task, justification, but this is the time to practice that. So what is the macromolecule that contains not only hydrogen and carbon, but also nitrogen? Only the amino acids, and many amino acids are making proteins, as well as the nucleotides that make up nucleic acid. So you can pick either a precursor. For the precursor is a protein or nucleic acid, and the justification is because the protein or nucleic acid contains nitrogen, and the cyanide contains nitrogen. The protein or the nucleic acid must be the precursor for making cyanide by the plant. And that's it basically for reviewing the questions and guiding you through how to think during the AP quizzes, because they require not only recall, but definitely application. Please, if you have any questions, just reach out, because I would be glad to walk you through more. And that's all. Have a good day. Bye.